Hi, Patricia. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are joined with Kendall, who is our SVP of Product Management. Megan is our SVP of Product Development. Myself, the SVP of Marketing. Chelsea is our Chief Innovation Officer, and John is our Director of Client Insights. And last but not least is Cynthia, who's our Physician Support Manager. So a little bit of the agenda. So we're going to be going of the overview. We're going to go over the situation, the background, the key findings, our analysis, and finally our recommendations. So as an overview, we have a timeline here that presents the issue that we have faced, and it all started when the issue of the inaccurate readings was identified. Then there was the authorization of the emergency fund, which was spent on the new devices that were sent, the packaging improvements, communication campaign, and the app on the phone as well. We were also able to identify that the root cause was the malfunctioning of the microprocessor.
Thanks, Fatma. That was a great overview. Hi, Patricia. I'm the SVP of Product Management. I'm going to jump right into the situation, the reason why we're all here today. So a few months after the launch of our latest device, the GlucoGauge glucose blood monitoring system or device, we were notified that there were some inaccurate readings directly by patients and our physician partners. And we also heard about this on our social media. We immediately became concerned because, as you know, there are some concerns when a device is not accurate, and for patients that have inaccurate glucose readings, this can be a patient safety concern. If patients can't manage their blood glucose, they can become very sick, they can be hospitalized, and worst of all, they can die. So this can increase our liability as a company. It can also affect our reputation. As you know, we've worked years for an excellent reputation, and something like this could negatively impact it. So some background about the device, just to remind you, we took a lot of time researching and developing this device, 3 years, and it was the highest cost device that we have launched to date. We did extensive testing before we launched. We had some air standard rates to meet. The FDA requires that glucose monitoring devices have an air rate of less than 20%. The American Diabetic Association, the air rate they recommend is 10%. Prior to our launch, we did extensive lab testing and found that our device had an air rate of 10%. After we learned of this new information about inaccurate readings, we went right back into the lab and we did additional testing. And we again verified that our in-lab air rate is 10%. However, when we looked outside with real diabetics in the real world with our physicians, we did note a 30% air rate, which was just unacceptable. At this point, we did have $1 million that we put towards trying to find a root cause of the inaccurate blood glucose readings. We felt there were two categories that we could chase down a root cause, one being consumer misuse and two being device dysfunction. Over the next couple of slides, Megan first, Cynthia, and then Chelsea will go over what they found in those investigations, or what we found. Megan?
Hi, Megan, SVP of Product Development. As mentioned by Kendall, our initial investigation indicated the possibility of multiple causes. However, through rigorous analysis, we successfully identified a single root cause being the microprocessors, and by proxy, the device. We identified a specific problem with the microprocessor when it's used in conjunction with our newly designed capillary action test strips, or CAP for short. We employed an innovative technology in manufacturing these strips that enables us to produce the strips at a lower cost while, in theory, simultaneously offer the patient a more accurate reading. The cap strips were the recommended strips to use in the GlucoGauge, and that would explain the high inaccurate readings because, unfortunately, we discovered that when these strips are used, the microprocessor in the device sometimes failed because of an issue with one of the subcomponents. However, when the device is used with an older generation strip technology, such as the Master Strip 2, the subcomponent and the microprocessor does not experience any performance issues, and the readings are very reliable. Once this was brought to our microprocessor supplier, they actually found a replacement for the subcomponent in the microprocessor, which doesn't experience any performance issues when used with the cap strips. From there, we had two potential courses of action. We could either alert existing patients that they should use the older strips instead of the new cap strips and ship a free 3-month supply of the Master Strip 2 to each patient who purchased the device, or ship new devices with the replaced microprocessor subcomponent to the customers. The latter option had some uncertainty with respect to the total manufacturing and shipping costs associated with replacing those devices. And as you know, this was a very difficult decision for us to make, as we were aware that the board of directors wanted us to bring our costs down and make up for the budget shortfall in the form of layoffs. However, we did choose to send replacement devices to our customers as a show of good faith, and we later found out that the supplier was actually liable for the cost of manufacturing, and we were able to retain all of our employees and avoid layoffs. After the replacement devices were sent, we saw a significant decrease in inaccurate readings and were assured that the microprocessors were the root cause of the problem. I'll now pass it over to Cynthia to speak on consumer misuse in the field, which also caused inaccurate readings.
Thank you, Megan. Hi, Patricia. My name is Cynthia, and I am the physician support manager. And we received reports that social media was showing negative feedback on our device due to inaccurate readings. And actually, my sister came to me the other day and said that she's also been seeing these reports come out on the device. So we knew there was an issue there, and we decided to dig into that a little bit further. And what surfaced was that patients are actually not able to understand the packaging instructions. And the unclear packaging instructions contributed to patients not inserting the test strips correctly into our device. So we thought if our packaging instructions aren't clear, then there's another issue there, that the doctors are not going to be able to provide patient care and accurately teach our patients how to use the device. So what we do know is that during lab controlled conditions, the test readings come out 100% accurate. So if our representatives from our company are there, they're able to assist the doctor and the patient to use the device correctly, and then it works. So we decided to allocate funding to update the packaging instructions, and we updated it also in several languages, because another issue surfaced that some patients who do not speak English were not able to read our instructions and therefore use it correctly. So updating the instructions for other languages, making them more clear. And then also we decided to add pictures to the packaging so that even if we had a patient who doesn't speak the languages where we offered the instructions in, they would at least be able to look at the photos and understand, okay, I need to insert this a certain way in order to get an accurate reading. So we believe that with this campaign to update instructions and then also add more funding to our rapport with our patient doctor campaign, we can educate the doctors and give them tools to use when they're speaking with the patients so that we can make sure that we're getting accurate readings from all different angles. So I will turn it over to Chelsea now, who's going to discuss some of the readings from the device app.
Thank you, Cynthia. Hi, Patricia. I'm Chelsea Cohen, the Chief Innovation Officer. In addition to the device malfunctioning and consumer misuse, we found that there were phone application issues, as Cynthia just mentioned. The app was a big selling point because it allows the consumer to graph glucose readings over time and to spot trends in these readings. This helps with seeing patterns and sharing information with physicians. My father's 72 years old and is a user of GlucoGauge. When I asked him about his experience, he said he likes the actual device, but is having a hard time using the smartphone app. He's self-proclaimed old school and doesn't use his phone for much. When asked to download an app and learn how to use it, he was hesitant. He said the instructions weren't very clear and he just kept forgetting about it. He then went on to say that if he didn't have to think about it or he got reminders, he would feel a lot better about using the app and syncing the results. For the app to be most effective, we recommend that the user upload their results daily, if not weekly. Unfortunately, we're seeing that a lot of people are like my father, and 30% of the users are not syncing regularly. When this happens, you see a large data dump right before an upcoming doctor's appointment, which leads to high inaccuracy rates. We took my father's advice, and our recommendations are to set up recurring notifications on the smartphone app. This will be a built-in process so the user agrees to the terms and conditions And then they'll have a walkthrough on how to use the app and what kind of notifications they want to set up. Another effective way of enhancing the app is to create automatic Bluetooth syncing. This will help create a better way to upload the data and drive more accurate results. Because of this, they can connect to their smartwatches or any other smart device they use. Another recommendation we had is that when the users receive a notification, detailed instructions would pop up and walk them through each action. This would add another layer of support for the users getting used to the app. We can work with the engineering team to put these edits into use as soon as possible. Lastly, we thought that doing additional market research will allow us to find other ways to enhance the app and other opportunities for customer satisfaction moving forward. And now John will go over the mitigation analysis.
Thanks, Chelsea. Good afternoon, Patricia. John Hoffman, I'm your Director of Client Insights for the GlucoGauge. So what I'll go over is kind of the mitigation analysis. So looking at what we did to resolve these issues and how effective we feel they were. Kind of bottom line up front, though, in each one of these scenarios and with the phone application, the recommendation we're going to give is that Matterhorn Health is the actual face of resolving the problem, right? So you can see that the dedication of funding really lies in us resolving the problem, with a small piece of the campaign being used to provide our physicians and our vendors support when they're working with the actual patients. So off the top here, so like Megan discussed, so with the device issue mediation, we sent out the new devices, right? And really, the bulk of the cost was covered by the vendor of the microprocessors. And that kind of enabled a few things for us. It kept the cost low, one. Really, all those are kind of your shipping and handling, a little bit of our production line costs, but it was relatively low at $50K. So that enabled future profit off the new strips, right? That shows future growth. It shows that we're an innovative company that, later down the line, we're going to be using these test strips, which actually result in more profit for us. It built a lot of trust with the customers and vendors. It's a big statement saying we're going to send you the appropriate device. So we helped our reliability and our reputation with the customer. But probably the biggest point of that is we retain key employee assets. So when we're talking 600 people in this company, that's not just the manufacturing line. Those are software engineers, product developers, regional sales individuals that have relationships with our customers. We would have really felt that 600 people being, no longer in the company. That's something that probably would have affected us more long-term than just the immediate revenue. So looking at the packaging issue, like Cindy had discussed, the bulk of our funding went to this. Really the focus here was resolving those usability issues, updating the languages, adding the pictures to the packaging, making it a little more eye-catching for the users. That was our primary focus. We have to know what our audience was, and we really weren't hitting the mark on that. So what that did, again, it built a lot of rapport with our customers. It helped our physicians who are working with these patients day in, day out to explain how to use this device. And probably most important, right? So it increased our marketing effectiveness. So now we know that, we can possibly take these improvements that we made to the GlucoGauge and distribute it across all the products that Matterhorn Health has. It's more seen to us as an R&D expense and a marketing expense more than, solving this issue. So I think it's going to have, it's going to pay dividends across the company portfolio. So that brings us to our last point, the phone application. So again, like Chelsea touched on, what we're focusing on is increased usability by our clientele. We know that our clientele is not, probably the most tech savvy. We have probably a few, the primary bulk of our individuals using this device are not comfortable using most applications. So we need to cater to that. That's something that we need to go out and resolve. So, we see that making those updates, the notifications, the Bluetooth syncing, making it easy for the customer to use is very important. Where this is going to be, beneficial outside of the GlucoGauge, potentially some crossover benefits with some other products. If we can modify the current application to work with some of our other products, there's a lot of potential for that. And more importantly, it builds that user and brand familiarity. So in the lasting brand loyalty. So when we're talking about, having users that are familiar with our application, they like our product, it's easy to use, they're more likely to buy this device again next year when it comes around and they're replacing these devices on that 12-month cycle. So we see a lot of benefit to updating the phone application. And again, we're estimating about the 110,000 mark. So really with what we spend on the GlucoGauge versus how much it's going to cost to really expand our portfolio here, we feel that that's probably the best way forward. So pending any questions, I'll hand it back over to Fatma and she'll go through some of the stakeholder engagements. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So here we have some key strategies that we recommend using when it's time for that press conference. And based on the audience, we'll be using different strategies. So when we are addressing and talking to the customer, we want to assure them that their health is our top priority, along with their patient safety. We want to focus on our vision here of your health matters at Matterhorn Health, really emphasizing that we want to be creating a safe and well-developed products because we do not want to put their lives at risk. To insurance companies, we want to address the product reliability component, and that cost of research and development of the product will not change its price for the insurance companies, so they can rest assured that there will be no changes other than making the product more reliable. Our healthcare audience is the most important because they were the most concerned about the inaccurate results and the patient safety. So we want to assure them again that patient safety is our top priority, and we are going to address the discrepancies in the readings to ensure that the device is accurate and make it even more accessible for them to access data for the patient when they are coming to visit. And then when talking to our government regulators, we want to assure them that we are committed to the FDA and ADA testing standards, and we are also working on reducing field error rate. And finally, our shareholders will want to hear more about the long-term growth plan that we have for the company and ensuring them that we are focused on the company's stability and reputation along with the stock stability. So thank you so much for listening. As you saw, the team is here to answer any questions, so please reach out if anything stands out to you. Thank you.